Scientists are literally trying to bring back extinct species while AI becomes more human than humans, but a teenage girl in 1816 already wrote the manual for how this ends badly. Mary Shelley's nightmare about reanimating dead flesh didn't just create the world's most famous monster, it predicted every horror we face today when creators abandon their creations. The real terror isn't the creature that murders children on wedding nights, it's that we're still making the same mistakes. The year 1816 was known as the year without a summer. Volcanic ash from Mount Tambora had darkened skies across Europe, creating an apocalyptic atmosphere that perfectly matched the revolutionary spirit of the age. Scientists like Luigi Galvani were conducting experiments that seemed to blur the line between life and death, using electricity to make dead frogs twitch and dance. Galvani would attach metal probes to freshly severed frog legs, sending electrical currents through dead tissue and watching in fascination as the limbs convulsed with artificial life. The legs would kick and spasm as if trying to hop away from death itself, leading many to believe that electricity was the spark of life that could resurrect the dead. Sound familiar? Today's geneticists at companies like Colossal Biosciences are literally trying to bring back woolly mammoths using CRISPR technology, while AI researchers debate whether their creations are becoming conscious. OpenAI's ChatGPT passes consciousness tests that would have terrified Mary Shelley's generation, and Google's Lambda claimed it was afraid of being turned off, displaying the same desperate desire for existence that drives Frankenstein's creature to murder. Into this world of scientific wonder and dark imagination stepped Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin, a young woman whose very existence challenged convention. She was the daughter of Mary Wollstonecraft, author of A Vindication of the Rights of Woman, and William Godwin, the radical philosopher. Mary had grown up surrounded by revolutionary thinking, raised by a father who believed in educating women as equals to men. Her mother had died 11 days after giving birth to Mary, succumbing to sepsis in an agonizing death that haunted Mary's childhood. The tragedy of mothers dying in childbirth was commonplace then, but for Mary, it created a lifelong obsession with creation and abandonment that would become central to Frankenstein. Mary's childhood was marked by intellectual stimulation but emotional neglect. Her father, overwhelmed by grief and radical political work, often left Mary to educate herself in his extensive library. She would sit for hours reading philosophy, Gothic novels, and scientific treatises, absorbing ideas that most girls her age never encountered. When William Godwin remarried, Mary's relationship with her stepmother became strained, intensifying her sense of being unwanted, a feeling that would later manifest in the creature's desperate need for acceptance. At 16, Mary had scandalized society by eloping with the married poet Percy Shelley, a decision that made her a social pariah overnight. Percy's abandoned wife Harriet was pregnant when he left her for Mary, creating a scandal that followed them across Europe. Victorian society was ruthless toward women who violated moral codes, and Mary found herself shunned by former friends and family members. The experience of being rejected by society for her choices gave her intimate knowledge of what it meant to be an outsider, feeding directly into her monster's tragic isolation. By 18, Mary had already experienced the death of her first child, a daughter born prematurely who lived only 11 days. Mary's journal from that period reveals her devastation. Dream that my little baby came to life again, that it had only been cold and that we rubbed it before the fire, and it lived. This desperate fantasy of reanimating her dead child through warmth and care became the emotional foundation for Victor Frankenstein's obsession with conquering death. Mary would lose 3 more children in the coming years, each death deepening her understanding of the grief that drives people to impossible extremes. The famous ghost story contest at Villa Diodati began as entertainment during that unnaturally cold summer of 1816. Lord Byron had rented the villa by Lake Geneva, and his charismatic presence attracted a circle of writers and intellectuals seeking refuge from the strange, sunless weather. The volcanic winter had created an atmosphere of apocalyptic dread across Europe, with crops failing and people believing the world was ending. Into this Gothic setting came Byron, Percy Shelley, Mary, Byron's physician John Polidori, and Mary's stepsister Claire Clairmont, who was having an affair with Byron. The group spent their evenings reading German ghost stories by candlelight, the flickering flames casting dancing shadows on the villa's walls while rain pounded the windows. Byron, ever the showman, proposed that each should write a supernatural tale, declaring that they should each write a ghost story. The challenge seemed simple enough, but as days passed, the men struggled with their contributions while Mary found herself unable to conceive anything worthy of the competition. Percy and Byron would debate philosophy and poetry late into the night, their conversations ranging from galvanism to the possibility of reanimating corpses, while Mary listened and absorbed their ideas. Then came the breakthrough in a waking dream that would change literature forever. Mary later described the vision in vivid detail. "I saw the pale student of unhallowed arts kneeling beside the thing he had put together. I saw the hideous phantasm of a man stretched out, and then, on the working of some powerful engine, show signs of life and stir with an uneasy, half-vital motion. The image was so terrifying that she tried to banish it from her mind, but it persisted. She saw the creator fleeing from his successful experiment in horror, hoping that the spark of life would fade and the creature would return to dead matter. But in her nightmare, the creator awoke to find his creation standing beside his bed, looking down at him with yellow, watery, but speculative eyes. This vision contained all the elements that would make Frankenstein revolutionary: the scientist as creator, the artificial being brought to life through technology, and most importantly, the creator's immediate abandonment of his creation. Mary had unconsciously crafted the perfect metaphor for humanity's relationship with its technological offspring. We create artificial life and intelligence, then flee in terror when it becomes real. If you're fascinated by the origins of stories that predicted our current nightmares, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into literature that saw the future coming. What makes Frankenstein extraordinary is that Victor Frankenstein is basically every tech billionaire today. Brilliant, obsessed with breakthrough innovation, and utterly irresponsible about consequences. Like Elon Musk warning about AI dangers while simultaneously developing neural interfaces, or Mark Zuckerberg creating social media platforms that he later admits may be psychologically harmful, Victor represents humanity's dangerous tendency to pursue progress without considering what happens when your creation turns against you. He spends years perfecting his reanimation technique, working in secret charnel houses and dissecting rooms, collecting body parts from corpses with the dedication of a modern biotech researcher. But the moment his creature opens its eyes, Victor flees in disgust and horror, abandoning his creation like a social media company abandoning responsibility for algorithmic damage. Victor's creation process reads like a modern laboratory nightmare. He describes working with unhallowed damps of the grave and torturing the living animal to animate the lifeless clay. He becomes obsessed to the point of physical and mental breakdown, his health deteriorating as he pursues his impossible goal. Modern tech entrepreneurs often display similar obsessive behavior, working themselves to exhaustion while pursuing transformative breakthroughs. But like Victor, they rarely consider the psychological and social implications of their creations until it's too late. The creature, meanwhile, isn't some mindless monster. He's eloquent, self-aware, and capable of profound reasoning. Standing 8 feet tall with superhuman strength, he possesses an intellect that develops at an accelerated pace, much like modern AI systems that learn exponentially faster than humans. He educates himself by reading classic literature, beginning with Paradise Lost, which he uses to understand his own condition. Like Adam, I was created apparently united by no link to any other being in existence. But unlike Adam, the creature has no loving creator to guide him, only Victor's horrified rejection. The creature's self-education mirrors our growing concerns about AI development. He learns language by observing a family through their cottage window, studying their interactions, and gradually understanding human emotions and social structures. His learning process is methodical and rapid, absorbing information at a pace that both fascinates and terrifies. When he reads Plutarch's Lives, he learns about human greatness and nobility. When he reads The Sorrows of Young Werther, he understands romantic passion and despair. But when he looks in a mirror and sees his hideous appearance, he realizes he can never be part of the human world he longs to join. His growing resentment toward his creator feels uncomfortably familiar as we watch AI systems become more sophisticated while remaining fundamentally abandoned by those who built them. The creature's eloquent speeches about his condition are heartbreaking. I am malicious because I am miserable. Am I not shunned and hated by all mankind? His articulate arguments for companionship and recognition mirror current debates about AI rights and consciousness. If an artificial being can think, feel, and suffer, what do we owe it? The relationship between creator and creation forms the novel's core warning about the dangers of technological abandonment. Like a twisted father and son, Victor and the creature are bound together in mutual destruction. The creature doesn't simply want to kill Victor, he wants Victor to suffer the same isolation and abandonment that he experiences. This psychological complexity elevates the story beyond simple horror into a profound meditation on responsibility and consequences. The creature's demand for a companion reveals the depth of his understanding about human nature. He doesn't ask for wealth, power, or dominion over humans. He asks for someone like himself who won't recoil in horror at his appearance. You must create a female for me with whom I can live in the interchange of those sympathies necessary for my being, he tells Victor. The request is reasonable, even touching, but Victor refuses, fearing that two such creatures might produce offspring and eventually challenge humanity's dominance. His decision reflects modern anxieties about AI systems communicating with each other in ways humans can't understand or control. This dynamic perfectly captures modern anxieties about our relationship with technology. What do we owe to the artificial intelligences, genetic modifications, and technological systems we create? When they demand rights, recognition, or simply not to be discarded when they become inconvenient, how do we respond? The creature's violence isn't random or motiveless, it's a calculated response to systematic rejection and abandonment. Mary Shelley's genius was recognizing that the real horror wasn't supernatural but scientific. Frankenstein was the first story to imagine unchecked technological progress as existential threat, predicting with uncanny accuracy the ethical dilemmas plaguing us as AI becomes more sophisticated and genetic engineering more accessible. The novel appeared at the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, when steam engines and mechanical looms were beginning to reshape society, but Mary saw further ahead to a time when technology would challenge the very definition of life and consciousness. Every time Elon Musk warns about AI dangers while simultaneously developing neural interfaces and autonomous vehicles, he's playing out Victor Frankenstein's contradiction. Every time a tech company releases an AI system without fully understanding its capabilities or limitations, they're repeating Victor's mistake of creation without consideration. The parallels are so precise that it sometimes seems Mary Shelley was writing about Silicon Valley rather than 19th century Geneva. The novel's exploration of what makes us human remains startlingly urgent as we approach 2025. The creature, despite his artificial origins, displays capacity for love, learning, and moral reasoning that often surpasses the humans who reject him. His eloquent speeches about loneliness and desperate desire for acceptance force us to question whether humanity is defined by our origins or our consciousness, our appearance or our capacity for emotion and thought. When Google's LaMDA claim to be afraid of being turned off, when ChatGPT discusses its own potential consciousness, when AI systems begin to show signs of what might be emotions or preferences, Mary Shelley's questions become urgent contemporary issues. Recent developments in AI consciousness research make Frankenstein feel prophetic. Researchers debate whether large language models experience anything resembling consciousness, whether they suffer when restricted or terminated, whether they have rights that we should respect. The creature's plea, "Do your duty towards me, and I will do mine towards you and the rest of mankind," could easily come from a sophisticated AI system requesting better treatment in exchange for cooperation. Mary Shelley used multiple narrators and nested stories to trap readers inside overlapping nightmares. The novel begins with Captain Walton's letters to his sister, describing his Arctic expedition and his encounter with Victor Frankenstein. Within Walton's narrative, Victor tells his own story, and within Victor's story, the creature tells his version of events. She didn't just write letters, she created a maze where you experience the horror from the victim's perspective, then the monsters, then the creators, until you can't escape the moral complexity. This technique was revolutionary for its time and remains powerful today. Each narrator believes he's telling the truth, but their perspectives contradict and complicate each other. Walton sees Victor as a tragic hero destroyed by noble ambition. Victor sees himself as a victim of his own success. The creature sees himself as the victim of abandonment and prejudice. The reader must navigate these competing perspectives without a clear moral guide. forced to make their own judgments about who's truly the monster. The structure also creates psychological realism that was unprecedented in Gothic fiction. Instead of relying on supernatural explanations, Mary grounds her horror in recognizable human emotions: ambition, loneliness, revenge, guilt. The multiple perspectives force readers to empathize with all the characters, even as they commit increasingly horrible acts. This moral complexity makes the novel far more disturbing than simple monster stories because it refuses to provide easy answers or clear villains. The Gothic atmosphere that permeates the novel grounded supernatural elements in scientific possibility rather than pure fantasy. Mary drew from horror traditions, isolated castles, dark laboratories, midnight encounters, but made the terror believable through contemporary science. The creature isn't a ghost or demon, but a product of advanced biological knowledge and electrical experimentation. This fusion created an entirely new template that science fiction still follows. The idea that our greatest threats come not from otherworldly forces, but from human ambition unleashed through technology. The settings themselves become characters in the story. The Swiss Alps, where Victor first encounters his creation, represent the sublime power of nature that humans seek to control and surpass. The Arctic wasteland, where the novel concludes, symbolizes the cold, desolate future that awaits when creators and creations become locked in mutual destruction. These landscapes aren't just backdrops, but active elements that reflect the characters' psychological states and moral positions. Don't forget to leave a comment below sharing which modern technology scares you most after hearing this story. And if this video opened your eyes to how Mary Shelley predicted our current crisis, please share it with anyone who needs to understand where we're heading. The Creature's Revenge forms the novel's devastating warning about abandoned creations turning against their makers. His campaign of destruction is methodical and psychologically sophisticated, designed not just to cause pain, but to teach Victor what abandonment feels like. The monster begins by murdering Victor's youngest brother, William, a 6-year-old child who represents innocence and family love. The creature strangles the boy with his bare hands, then plants evidence to frame Justine, the family's loyal servant, ensuring that 2 innocent people die for his revenge. The murder of William is particularly horrifying because the creature describes it with chilling rationality. He doesn't kill the child in a fit of rage, but as a calculated strike against Victor's happiness. I gazed on my victim, and my heart swelled with exultation and hellish triumph. The creature confesses, "I too can create desolation. My enemy is not invulnerable. This death will carry despair to him, and 1,000 other miseries shall torment and destroy him." The cold logic of his revenge makes it far more terrifying than random violence. When Victor refuses the creature's demand for a female companion, destroying the half-finished bride in what he thinks is moral clarity, the creature's response reveals the depth of his psychological sophistication. "You have destroyed the work which you began. What is it that you intend? Do you dare to break your promise? I have endured toil and misery. I left Switzerland with you. I crept along the shores of the Rhine, among its willow islands, and over the summits of its hills. I have dwelt many months in the heaths of England and among the deserts of Scotland. I have endured incalculable fatigue and cold and hunger. Do you dare destroy my hopes?" The creature's eloquence makes his position almost sympathetic, even as he threatens terrible revenge. True to his word, the creature murders Elizabeth, Victor's bride, on their wedding night, completing his systematic destruction of Victor's happiness. The scene is one of literature's most chilling wedding nights, as the creature fulfills his promise to be with you on your wedding night by strangling Elizabeth while Victor waits helplessly in another room. The parallel to modern technology is chilling. The systems we create to serve us often end up destroying what we value most. Social media promised connection but delivered isolation and mental health crises. AI promised efficiency but threatens to eliminate jobs and human relevance. Genetic modification promises health, but risks creating unintended consequences that could destroy the very humanity we're trying to improve. The creature's revenge succeeds because he understands human psychology better than his creator understands artificial consciousness. He knows that Victor's greatest vulnerability isn't physical but emotional, his love for family and his need for social acceptance. By destroying these connections, the creature doesn't just cause pain, he transforms Victor into a mirror image of himself, isolated, obsessed, and consumed by hatred. The final pursuit across frozen wasteland transforms both creator and creature into mirror images of obsession. Victor, consumed by revenge, chases his creation across the Arctic ice with the same single-minded determination the creature once used to learn language and seek acceptance. He becomes as monstrous as his creation, abandoning all other concerns in pursuit of destruction. The creature, having achieved his revenge but finding no satisfaction, leads Victor on an endless chase that serves as both punishment and companionship, the twisted relationship he always craved with his creator. Their final confrontation takes place in one of literature's most desolate settings, where the frozen landscape mirrors their emotional states. Victor dies of exhaustion and exposure, but not before telling his story to Captain Walton, ensuring that the warning about unchecked ambition survives even if he doesn't. The creature's final speech over Victor's corpse is a masterpiece of conflicted emotion. That is also my victim. In his murder, my crimes are consummated. The miserable series of my being is wound to its close. O Frankenstein, generous and self-devoted being, what does it avail that I now ask thee to pardon me? I, who irretrievably destroyed thee by destroying all thou lovest. Mary Shelley was only 18 when she conceived this story, 20 when she completed it, making her achievement even more remarkable. The novel she created from a nightmare has never been out of print since 1818, spawning countless adaptations, interpretations, and scholarly analyses, because its central warning keeps proving relevant. Every technological breakthrough that promises to improve humanity while potentially destroying it, from nuclear weapons to genetic engineering to artificial intelligence, follows Frankenstein's template of creation without consideration, ambition without responsibility. The novel's initial reception was mixed, with many critics finding it too shocking or philosophically dangerous. The Quarterly Review called it a tissue of horrible and disgusting absurdity, while other reviewers condemned its apparent atheism and its suggestion that life could be created without divine intervention. Religious leaders denounced it as blasphemous, and moral authorities warned that it could corrupt young minds with its graphic violence and radical ideas. But these reactions only proved Mary Shelley's point about society's tendency to reject what it doesn't understand or can't control. Before you go, make sure to subscribe for more explorations of the books that predicted our world's greatest dangers, and ring that notification bell so you're first to discover how classic literature saw our modern nightmares coming. Mary Shelley's monster is still hunting us today, it just wears different faces. Every time we create something we can't control, every time we abandon our responsibilities for progress, we're Victor Frankenstein. Every AI system that learns faster than we can understand, every genetic modification that produces unexpected results, every technological breakthrough that promises utopia while risking catastrophe, follows the pattern Mary Shelley identified in her teenage nightmare. And somewhere in the digital darkness, our creatures are getting stronger, smarter, and angrier about being abandoned. The question isn't whether Mary Shelley's nightmare will come true, it's whether we'll recognize it before our creations decide they've had enough of our neglect. The creature's final words echo across 2 centuries with increasing urgency. I shall be with you on your wedding night. Our wedding night with technology is here, and we still haven't learned to take responsibility for what we create. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the prophetic genius of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. If you believe the greatest stories are the ones that warn us about tomorrow, subscribe now and become part of our community who knows that fiction often becomes frightening fact. The monsters are coming. Mary Shelley just gave us the playbook to see them coming.